explore the TI-83/84 in this tutorial, and we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to look at, in this tutorial specifically, we're going to look at graphing and how we can modify and type in a few graphing items, and just what is the graphing calculator capable of in terms of graphing. This is a pretty basic tutorial. If you've used the calculator some, then you've probably gone through this, but just to make sure, or maybe some of you are still having trouble. So make sure that you kind of follow along. You need to pause the video anytime to kind of catch up and type in the same things that I've got. You can do that. Now, I'm going to press Y equals and go to my my equations. Now you'll notice that mine may be a little different than yours. I'm using the most updated version of the TI software for its calculator. If you have not updated your software, if you have a TI-83, you can't do it, but if you have an 84 or an 84 plus, 84 silver edition, those kinds of things, then you'll have to plug it up to the computer and tell it to update the software. It might even in fact do it by itself if you've got the right software downloaded. If that's something that you want to explore and you're not really sure how to, go ahead and just at some point in time get with me and ask about that. I might be even able to update it from my laptop at school. Depends. But we're going to go ahead and explore this. I've got a couple of things typed in already. We're going to look at we're just going to look at the y equals menu for a minute. You can see I have several different basic functions typed in. We have x squared, x cubed, 1 over x, and the square root of x. Now, I don't want to graph all 4 of these at the same time. Something that's really cool is that I can type all this stuff in, and I can actually turn off the graphing feature. If you will press to the left one time, you'll see the cursor move back over your equal sign. If I hit enter, it takes that black box off the equal sign. What that does is deactivates that. I'm going to go ahead and deactivate this graph for a majority of these. We're just going to have y1 on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hit graph, and here you see we have our y equals x squared. Now that's not the standard view. Your view may be different. What happens and how do you clear your zoom, how do you get it back to looking the way it looks just from the start? If you press zoom and you go down to where it says standard or zoom 6, hit the number 6, and there I am back to what most of you probably had when you looked at your graph. And you can see the parabola going from here to here. All right. If we go back to y equals, and I want to go ahead and I wanted to graph a different one, what we can do is we can go back over here. We can turn off that feature. I can go down and I can hit enter, and I can graph a separate one. I hit graph again, and there I have x cubed. And I can continue this process, and I can keep doing lots of different things. I can keep turning them on and off, or I could graph them all at the same time, and that probably would be a little confusing, and you're not going to want to see that. Of course, you can see the graph down here, what it looks like if I were to go ahead and hit graph. But we'll just kind of look at each one of these one at a time. I'm going to hit enter on the square root of x and just have it on the same time. And you can see exactly when you type in 2 things, it starts to kind of get a little bit cluttered. But let's go in and explore a little bit more of just y equals. So that's a little bit what we can do with equal signs. There are up to 10 equations that you can type in for y1 through y10. Let's go back up and play around with the x squared. Now, something you might not have ever even thought about is when I press to the right, to the left all the way, I get back over here, and you can see in this part right there, it's blinking and it's saying, okay, well, what I do? If you press enter, if you'll keep your eye on the graph at the bottom, what we'll see is it change a little bit. If we do that, automatically it makes my graph bold. So if I had 2 different things I wanted to graph, and I wanted to be able to tell the difference between the 2 of them, I could graph one in the bold line and one in the traditional color. And then you have what we have is the top part of that line is shaded, and there you go. That is y is greater than or equal to x squared. Okay. This is the inequality portion. A lot of you in Math 3 are going to be looking at things like this, and even in the pre-calc class. When we do press it again, it drops to the bottom, and then what do you think is going to happen here? Yes, that's less than or equal to. And so it shades in below. And let's look at it this way. Let's go down, and if I shade below, we'll do that one, and let's change the x cubed to the top. And let me go ahead and turn it on. Notice it's not graphing down here, so you're not going to see it graph because it's deactivated. Let's go ahead and activate that graph, and then give it a second and it will activate. So I can ask you, okay, well, what's the solution to y is less than or equal to x squared and y is greater than or equal to x cubed? And you can see that very clearly. It would be on this side of x cubed and on this side of x squared. So you've got this outside section right there. And that would be something else. We can also, let me turn this one off. We'll go back to just looking at x squared. Some other things that we can have it do. I can go ahead and change it. There's a couple other things. Let me keep going here. Dotted. That's a nice little feature. It's another thing in terms of just you've got bold, you've got dotted, you've got just a traditional line. You press it one more time, and then boom, you're back to where you started from. So those are a couple of little tips, and nothing that's critical, but being able to graph is a pretty big deal. And being able to go in and just look at your graph, resize it, getting it back to normal. This is a little bit pretty basic in terms of just what can I do with the graph and change the graph and pieces like that.